أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Our traveler going through the creation, asking for his maker, his creator, was finally going through revelation last week, or divine speech. And last week's topic was about 5 specifications for, or 5 properties of revelation. And in the last paragraph that we read, which was at page 148 in the book The Rays, he talked about the evidences of the existence in unity of the necessary existence offered in unanimity by universal and heavenly revelations, which contain the truths of divine descent, dominical self-proclamation, compassionate response, divine conversation, and eternal self-communication, constitute a proof more powerful than the testimony for the existence of the sun brought by the rays of sunlight. We discussed this in detail last week. So inshallah, let's continue this week. And this time he's going to start talking about inspiration. And who is going to read us? Last week we read, do you remember?
We said Zaha would be this time, but
Zaha was
not
supposed
here.
to, and she
Maybe
escaped.
because of that.
Okay, last week Ahmed read. And then we can take someone from this side. Who wants to read? Okay, since sister, there are two, hasn't been among us for quite some time. She is volunteering, I guess. Okay, if you can hand it over to her. Jazakallah khair.
She's here.
The paragraph that starts with our traveler.
Oh, okay. Our traveler understood this, then looked in the direction of inspiration and saw that Veration's inspiration indeed resembles revelation in some respect, and it's a mode of dominical speech. The first, revelation, which is much higher than inspiration, generally comes by the medium of the angels, whereas inspiration generally comes directly. So too a king has 2 modes of speech and command. The first consists of his spending to a governor a lieutenant equipped with all the pomps of monarchy and the splendor of sovereignty. Sometimes, in order to demonstrate the splendor of his sovereignty and the importance of his command, he may meet with the intermediary, and then the decree will be issued. The second consists of his speak privately in his own person, not with title of monarch or in the name of kingship, concerning some private matter, some petty affair, using of his purpose a trust servant, some ordinary subject, or his private telephone. In the same way, the pre-eternal monarch may, either in the name of the sustainer of all the world and with the title of creator of the universe, speak with revelation or the comprehensive inspiration that performs the function of revelation. Or he may speak in a different and private fashion as the sustainer and creator of all animate beings from behind the veil in a way suited to the recipient.
Jazakallah khairan. So let's pause here. Before going with the actually, maybe we can also read the second difference, since it's just one paragraph, and discuss both.
Revelation, the second difference. Revelation is without a shadow, pure and reserved for the elect. Inspiration, by contrast, has shadow, colors intermingle with, and it is general. There are numerous different kinds of inspiration, such as the inspiration of angels, the inspiration of men, and the inspiration of animals. Inspiration thus forms a field of the multiplication of God's words that are numerous as the drops in the ocean. Our traveler understood that this matter is indeed a kind of commentary on the verse, where the sea to be become ink, or for the words of my sustainer, verily the sea would be exhausted before the words of my sustainer.
Can't stop there. Jazakallah khair. Yeah. So 2 points. He started talking about inspiration that every individual gets and how this is part of speech of creator. What's your take from that? Any comments, any questions?
So can we briefly define inspiration and revelation too? Like what are these?
So as he is mentioning, inspiration is like different types of inspiration of animal, inspiration of angel, inspiration of human. So what I understand from inspiration, as we also use in daily language, is like some feeling comes to you, some idea comes to you. And like there's something that's totally unknown to me, but next moment, oh, I found, you say, and then you start like solving or talking or doing something. You didn't know it 2 minutes before. So human cannot, like this is the case for anything, but human cannot create. Like if I knew it in the first place, I would already know it. If now I am becoming aware of it 5 minutes later, that means it came to me, it was not mine. So where does it come from? So this is me being spoken to. Somebody is speaking to me, but he is now taking this as, and of course we can talk about different types of speeches that human hears, but dominical speech, my creator talks to me in different ways. So that's what briefly I understand from inspiration.
Yeah, I get it. So I'm having a hard time understanding the paragraph, I guess. How revelation is pure, and if it's saying that inspiration is not pure, what does it mean by colors intermingle with it? Like, yeah, like what's the difference? Like I read it, I cannot decipher it.
Yep. So he starts by making a distinction with a revelation versus inspiration. So for revelation, he says higher than inspiration. But so now we are going to the second difference. It's without shadow, pure, reserved for the elect. Like the message is clear. It's not to be distorted or confused with anything else. But if we think about, we can compare it with what we are experiencing. Like some feeling comes to you. You feel like you have a question in your head and you are asking for some sort of guidance. And then you say, some feeling comes to you, some idea comes to you, and you say, okay, I think I will go with this way. So yes, you receive some message, but the message you receive, we sometimes distorted with, or like the way we would like to understand it. So analogy in here would be more so like sun is sending, let's say, 7 colors, but like this shirt is going to get blue color from it because I am receiving part of it and reflecting other part of it. Partially because of me, I am just not purely getting it. So in this case, this is why he was mentioning that revelation is for the elect, like the few people among humanity receives revelation directly from the Creator. Even when I am reading Revelation, which is by itself is a clear message, my understanding from Revelation, for example, let's say you open Quran, which is revelation, and it's a clear message written in there. So in terms of the medium of the message, undisputable. But when it comes to what I understand from this message, this is where, again, inspiration comes into the picture.
So would an appropriate interpretation here be the difference between when you feel inspired, right? When you have like an eureka moment versus when a prophet is receiving revelation directly from God. So in this case, would elect be like the prophets, how they receive revelation, and it's not just like, oh, I just came up with this on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's correct.
So can you explain like what does the medium of the angels specify here? Like we've discussed angels in like quite a like detailed discussion previously, but like how do you know like this is like a revelation from the creator through an angel? Like what does that mean? And like what does medium suggest here and what is meant by that?
Okay.
Before going on to the details, did you mention the missing text in the translation at the very beginning? So the translation says, "This inspiration indeed resembles revelation in some respect, and is a mode of communicable speech." That's all it says. In the original, it says, although inspiration resembles revelation in some respects, actually there are two important differences. That's the actual text. So here the emphasis on with the first and the second, how revelation is different than, sorry, this inspiration is different than revelation.
I'm going to share my limited understanding. If anybody has an opinion, I'm open for Kadir's question, because to me, it's a hard question. I'll be honest with that. When he talks about revelation coming with a medium, but inspiration coming directly to the individual. So what am I observing in the existence if I start from there? So let's say revelation coming with a medium sounds like, where do I observe mercy of the creator? Let's talk about an example before coming to the actual revelation. So I see it in the mirror of a child, let's say, or I see a tree to get to know my creator's sustainership. So there's a medium through which I get to know him. And this is not only me seeing it, this medium is being given to like out there as a external entity that's observable. And it's also being open to others to benefit from in this sense, an external existence to me. But when it comes to inspiration in this sense, my creator is talking to me. It's between me and my creator. So in this sense, I think when he mentions revelation coming through with a medium, this is what comes to my mind, like an external entity, an observable external third entity existence is there in which, through which I get to know my creator. In the second one, it is being directly. But in the example here, he is distinguishing what is the importance of this. He is saying that if this medium is put outside, then this is showing the relevance of this message to everybody. Like if it was directly spoken to me, it is between me and my creator. But using a third intermediary, if you like, is saying that this message is relevant to Birkan and Yusuf as well. Like, because it's an external third party being involved in there means Kadir can also benefit from this. But if it is between me and my creator, I understand something. I can share it with you. You can benefit from it, but it's not a responsibility for you. You can say that, well, this is your opinion. This is what you understood from what your creator told you. So I think this is the distinction that I am seeing in here.
The way I'm also seeing it is that when you say that you're experiencing the mercy of the creator through a medium, like the medium isn't like still directly talking to you. Whatever mercy you're experiencing is still sort of an inspiration that's your understanding of that mercy.
Yes.
However, when you talk about like revelation in the general understanding of an angel, there's a clear communicator or a mediator between God and the prophet who's bringing these messages, and there's like clear communication instead of inspiration where it's still your understanding of it. Because if it's the same cute baby, everyone might have a different understanding of the cuteness. It's not generalized.
Mhm.
However, when revelation comes, it's a unified singular message for
Yeah.
communicated, and it remains the same.
And in this case, like, since like in the case of a baby is growing old and whatnot, but imagine this baby stays the same. So you can look at the same baby, I can look at the same baby. So the medium stays the same for everyone. So in the case of revelation coming through the medium, so the message stays the same in this case. So the same verse, the same word of the creator, you can still access to, I can still have access to. So in this regard, what come to is being like, at least this is, I think, why he's making this distinction, sort of a independent to, there's an independent existence from the observer. The creator is creating or sending a messenger out there. You can look at the same messenger, I can look at the same messenger. Based on my attitude, I'm going to get a different answer, you're going to get a different answer. The relevance is being for everyone, since message is out there. But if we are talking about the message that I understood from what has been sent, then it's mine, and we can talk about the distinction in there. Yes.
I'm just not sure why this kind of technical difference is important. So why is it important to know or to acknowledge that revelation can only be through an angel? And like inspiration is something like directly, from Allah to his like creator, to his creation. And then as I understand what you're saying is that, so revelation is that like they are only these words that are in the Mus'haf, but the way we interpret them is inspiration. Is this the difference?
Yeah. How I understand it?
So basically inspiration is the ideas that are being created in our minds. But then I thought that we discussed before that, so the revelation, which is the speech of God, now are they two different things? Because we talked about like the speech of God is not only this Mus'haf, but it's also like everything that is in between, that we interpret from or extrapolate from these words and how we understand it. So
like all of them are speech of God. But he is saying that speech of God are like, there is your creator talking to you, which is now inspiration. And your creator also talks to prophets specifically, this clear message. That's why Quran is also emphasizing that it's a clear message. That's a different type of his speech again.
Okay.
And creation is his speech as well.
But I thought people argued that the speech of God is not something that is created. But then now we're saying that this inspiration, which is a type of the speech of God, is created in our,
so
mind.
We can get into this dispute as well, what that refers to, because if I say that like speech of God is this is word of God, you have to obey it, then I'm giving it a shape. But since it belongs to the creator, I am like making creator created in essence. This is why there was this dispute of speech of God is not created, especially when it comes to Quran. This was mentioned. So Quran, as in speech of God, is uncreated. Is again, this was a 45 minutes or so conversation we had in the past. But we said when we talk about this Quran over there, like a Mus'haf written in there, clearly created, or what written in your brain is clearly created, because it's a limited understanding. It's a like existing thing from which I benefited, you benefited. So that portion of it is clearly created, but you and I both tap into, if you like, or benefit from a source which is uncreated. So this is why, like, I mean, that discussion, that dispute had a background of why people had this conversation, because people were saying that this is Quran and this is what it means. Like as Brother Birkan was talking during the like dinner time, like up, God is up. That's it. Like it says up, it is up. That's the end of story. So in this case, like restricting meaning to a certain thing, which is what I understood, and I'm saying it is what it is. So this was where the dispute or the conversation was happening, because there had been some political repercussions of that too. Like they were saying that this is it, I am the ruler, it's going to happen, and many people's heads were chopped off. But what we are right now discussing is my creator talks to me, like I receive some message, and that's a creation. That's a creation because it's my understanding. Likewise, water is a creation of my creator, right? Water is created, we call it, right? But in a sense, we have been talking that creation is a speech of creator, but in a, if you like, body language, if you would like to take it this way, like it's a tongue of disposition we were talking. So this is why everything is a speech of creator. And in this sense, this speech is through creation. That's one type of speech. But when it comes to revelation, like is Quran created? This is how that conversation was happening. Is Quran created? No, Quran is not created. It's a divine speech. But your understanding from this Quran is created. This was the distinction. And if we boil it down to here now, is Quran created? Like Quran coming with an angel as the medium in this case, it is saying that this message is a clear message, and it is, in a sense, or at least again how I understood, I'm not saying that this is the truth. So this message is observable by everybody. That's why I think there's this emphasis of a medium. It is there, everybody is going to benefit from it. But once you tap into this channel, if you like, what is reflected on you is dependent on how big is your mirror. Therefore, it's a created being and limited to your capacity. So your understanding is created for you, and that's a created talk, speech in this case.
I have another query about inspiration and revelation. So, and like specifically about inspiration, like what inspiration is, like in, for example, even if you have any thought or any idea, like you don't have control of your thoughts, like any idea that comes up to your mind is created by the creator. So how do we define inspiration, and how do we differentiate that with revelation? Because like if we see with like different branches, like or the sects of Islam, and like what is out there, like people say like they receive divine inspirations. So how do you know like what you're thinking right now, like what in your thought is a divine inspiration or not? And like how applicable is inspiration to the people around you? Like if you receive inspiration, can you apply that to other people? Like how we've defined revelation is something that applies to everyone, but like is inspiration applicable to everyone around you, or is it just a message to you from your creator?
So after here will come in-depth study of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. But before here, he also mentioned prophets. So the topic right now we are studying is in between the two. So we discussed humans' need to prophet to a certain extent, not too much in detail, but we discussed this. And now we are talking about what we are seeing before us. Up to here, we said that creator must talk and must talk in a way that human can understand. And now the author is saying that, okay, let's look at what revelation came and try to make a distinction. So at this moment, why is he making this distinction? So I'm trying to see why author is mentioning this sort of a distinction. What's happening is, how much am I going to rely on my understanding? To me, this is an important part of this discussion, because I'm realizing that the creator who is telling me about himself through the whole existence, like a cute baby, or I don't know, sometimes you get bored, sometimes you get excited, you see a beautiful scenery and whatnot, talks to me in this way. I am saying that my creator should talk to me in a way that a human teacher is going to come and explain me existence and everything. What happens is a person comes and says, you know what, those prophets, they are not any good. I am at least as good as them. Like this sort of a competition. I was listening to one such person, like he's a philosopher, or later turned philosopher. He became a philosopher later on, I guess. So he was saying that he was trying to understand what is the nature of revelation to the prophet. And his conclusion was, it is dreams. And his reasoning for this one was, my dreams are in a sense that in which my creator talks to me. So what prophet God should also be dreams. Like he is likening prophet's experience to his own experience. What is happening in here? Like I am a thinking, hardworking person. Muhammad ﷺ was just a shepherd. Never in his life read or put any effort in this regard anyways. Yet he is receiving this revelation and I'm not doing anything. Rather, what I am receiving is also something like his. So in here, author is calling me to questioning, like what I receive, is there a question mark on it due to me possibly distorting the meaning, number one. Number two, if this is the case, if there is a room for me to question what I have, maybe I distorted it, then there's going to be the reference for me. Then there must be people for whom there's not going to be this question mark. This is where this distinction becomes important. Like if any message and every message that comes to humanity is like my inspirations. Let's say I see an ad somewhere and it says, oh, if you get this gift, your wife is going to be super happy. Or sometimes it's just some, I don't know, Amazon review. And, oh, I said, oh, yeah, my wife is going to be happy and have an urge and buy it, right? But it was a review written by maybe the guy who is selling the product, which sometimes happens with people. So was it a revelation or it was being tricked? It happens in your life, right? Something comes to your mind and you feel like it was not the right choice at this moment. I was tricked. If everybody's messages is like this, then everybody's message becomes equally useless. If I will say that, no, whatever comes to me is true, but I know I'm failing time to time. So author in here is saying that, no, here we see revelation that came to those specific people. I am in need of such a revelation being clear. The creation, the way the creation is existing requires that there is this message that comes through like some external entity with which everybody can observe the same thing and get their own message. but the message is the same for everybody else. Because this is what revelation looks like, but my inspiration is a different type of speech. So this is why this distinction is important. And there's also a humbleness to be able to accept this distinction.
So when the revelation came to the Prophet, was his understanding inspiration, and that is the right type of inspiration, like that's how you're supposed to like interpret revelation? Or since a prophet received the revelation, that whatever his understanding was would still be categorized as, oh, that is the understanding of revelation? Is there still inspiration there?
So the revelation itself is what prophets heard in whatever form, in whatever shape. I don't know. I didn't experience this. This is pure, clear message. Must be a pure, clear message. But how prophet interpreted to people is his understanding, must be his understanding. And in different moments of his life, he would interpret the same verse in various different ways. Because otherwise, what would happen is this person, like, the verse doesn't have a single meaning. This is why it is. Like, as there are many meanings or infinitely many meanings for a verse, whatever prophet understood at this moment was his understanding at this moment that was sent to him, inspired to him. At a different moment from the same verse, he was inspired a definite meaning. But if you can say, you can further ask, was prophet, whatever prophet understood versus whatever I understood, what's the quality difference between them? If you talk about this, then that's a valid question, because prophet being a clean mirror, having less to know, however you would like to take it, distortion versus my limited, very problematic life, distorting the meaning, the quality of that inspiration is going to be huge.
So like the question that's coming to mind is that, like, if it's the same verse and two different people are interpreting it, and we see how the prophet interpreted, or like how he implemented it, or how he taught it to the Sahaba, would that be like the guidelines were like, okay, remain in this, or these are the limits? Because I don't know, a crazy person can stand up, read ayah of the Quran, interpret it in a completely wrong way. Like, so is that the standard? Is that what the author is like trying to establish here?
Yeah, so in this case, prophet's interpretation, we will talk about prophet a little more. Prophet's interpretation of Quran becomes a blueprint of how I can interpret Quran, because within his constraints, this is how he interpreted it within his time frame. And the importance of prophet's interpretation is he was immediately being corrected with any mistake. And in his lives, a few dhalla, as mentioned, like a few mistakes being immediately corrected, sometimes even with revelation, being corrected with revelation, tells us that whatever interpretation came from prophet with his life, with his words, is a reference point for me as to how to understand Quran. So this is why there's this, if you like, yardstick with which I can measure my understanding, but keeping in mind that prophet's understanding or interpretation is within a certain historical time frame, within a historical event of life, and many things happened at that time. But using this, I'm going to take my share. So this is the distinction between inspiration even of the prophet versus the revelation to the prophet.
I'm just wondering if there's such a distinction in the Quran, like, because what I'm understanding is that now we are kind of setting like not rules, but like difference between when we say wahi, which is the revelation, and when we say, I would assume inspiration is ilham, like the Arabic word. But like in the Quran, I don't see like for example, when Allah talked to Musa alayhi salam and he like ordered him to throw like the what is it like the stick, and he said وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى Musa, so he like gave Musa revelation to throw the stick. He didn't say وَأَلْهَمْنَا like Musa, you know, like he didn't give Musa this idea to throw, like, and it, I don't know if it came through an angel or not, but the verb وَأَوْحَيْنَا is used here.
So I think more tougher version of that question would be for Musa's mom, Quran also uses the word awha. To be, Quran also uses the word awha.
And then like in other examples, when Allah talked to Musa directly, he said وَكَلَّمْنَا Musa or وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ Musa تَكْلِيمًا. So he uses more the word like kalam that rather than wahi. So I'm not sure like.
So, I mean, there are other cases, again, of Prophet ﷺ's ascension, at the end of ascension, where Prophet was given the last 3 verses of Surah Baqarah as well, like without angel. So that parts of it, I don't have an answer to, like that type of it. But what I'm understanding from what Nurs is saying here, especially for animal inspirations and whatnot, and also if you go with tafasir, whenever you see awha for Moses' mom, for example, all the translations, interpretations will use it as inspire. They wouldn't say wahi. Likewise, for the B, they would say God inspired B. They wouldn't say God sent revelation to B. So I think author in here is making this distinction, although the same word is used there, but there's this practical distinction between the two. So, and now that we are studying this as the journey, so if now we apply to it ourselves, where am I in this picture? So that whatever I am hearing in myself, what do I categorize it? Like, is this revelation or is this inspiration? So based on these distinctions, where do I fall? Because I can relate to part of it. The part that I cannot relate to, I mean, I have access to revelation, and to me, it's a clear revelation. But revelation that the messenger took, that part I can only extrapolate or like arrive to a conclusion by saying that there must exist such a thing. But by myself, I haven't experienced angel, revelation of angel coming and telling me what it sounds like. So this is why I think from there we are making a conclusion based on our experiences to a certain extent.
Thank you. I was looking at the previous, last week's text again, and see how it follows. So it seems to me that, like, if we keep all these technicalities aside for a moment, because like when we ask such questions, we start with the assumption that we already know about the revelation, the Quran, the Prophet, how he received it, what kind of ayahs in the revelation, and so on and so forth. But this journey, at least to me, it's more on a simpler side, which is like the basics, the base of the revelation. It's not talking about a specific ayah or even Quran. It's talking about the revelation, like you can apply it to any other scripture as well. So last week we studied that the one who created all these things around me, the universe, and the one who created me with these questions and so on and so forth, he must give me the answers, right? We came to the conclusion. And then we realized that he does give some certain answers through the creation. We also understood that. So for instance, if I have a question about how to feed this baby, he gives me the answer through, like, not to me, but my wife, to get answer through, let's say, the changes in her body or the feelings and so on, right? He also creates all these other stuff which somehow accumulates as science that we study. And he gives answers to certain questions, through this creation, right? But then I say, you know, there are some other questions, some other more fundamental questions that I have as a human being. And I don't see answers to these questions in the creation. Right? So we said there must be a speech of God, just like a speech of God in the form of the creation, the universe, the baby, my body, right, the stars, and so on and so forth. Just like there is such a the speech, we said there must be another form of speech from my perspective. These differentiations are always from my perspective, right? I'm not talking about God, trying to imagine, sometimes writing, sometimes speaking, sometimes painting. I'm saying that from my perspective, through my senses, that I say there must be another form of this speech with certain properties we studied last week. And properties like my expectations, kind of, right? I say the speech must be in a form that I can make sense of. So it must be descend from above to my level, right? And then it must be in parallel to the speech that I see in the creation, right? So they cannot contradict. It must be a form of speech that is a response to my supplications or human supplications. And then it must be coming from, like, since it's coming from the creator of this universe, which is always alive, quote unquote, right? The speech must be alive as well, right? The speech should answer my questions in every second, in every situation. It's not, it shouldn't be a static speech. It should be ever changing from my perspective, meaning wise, right? A speech and so on. We said it must be answering my fundamental questions, needs, weaknesses, and so on and so forth. We said there must be such a speech, revelation, we said. And then now he says, okay, let's look at our, the inspiration. And at least when I first read the text, I didn't take it, to be honest, like as a technical term. I take it as, just like last week we were studying, we were saying that, well, God must be speaking to me as well if he's, answering my questions. And some other people said, oh yeah, he's speaking to me anyway, through my feelings and so on and so forth, right? This is something that we come to conclusion that my creator, if this creation is his speech, my creator is talking to me constantly anyway, through my feelings, through my conscience, through the ideas created in my mind, right? Every time I have something about me, in me, with me, when I ask the question, is it my creation? I say, no, it must be created, right? My ideas, my feelings, they are all must be created, and it's coming from the creator. So I say, oh, they are also speech of God. I dream something. I say, I was created in such and such form when I was sleeping, right? It's a creation. God created such a vision in my mind, I would say, right? To correct sometimes we feel reluctant to say such things, as if it's so mystical, as if it puts us in a level that we are higher than other people. A vision created in my mind. No, it can only happen to saints, right? That's reluctance.
So when author says inspiration, I don't think he's talking about such mystical things. They're saying that, we receive like these things all the time. I have an idea in my mind, sometimes a bad idea, sometimes a good idea, whatever. When I ask who can create this idea, I said, maybe I did. Maybe my brain did created this idea. Nothing to do with God, like being humble, right? It's nothing to do with God because it's a bad idea. God cannot create such terrible ideas. Other than God, nobody can create anything, right? So everything about me, in me, created by him. And I say, okay, this is another form of speech of God. And I try to see whether this fits the bill or not. Oh, God is constantly talking to me, I just realized. And I said, maybe this is the speech that I was looking for. Okay. And then now he says, yes, this is a kind of speech of God, for sure, he says, right? But it is different than your expectation about the revelations. Okay? He says it doesn't fit the bill because of these and that. First of all, he says, when something created in you, in your mind, it is very specific to you. Like, we look at the same thing with my wife, let's say. What she understands is completely different than what I understand, and she gets angry. Right? You can imagine what I... This is how we are created, right? She understands something, I understand something, and it's completely different. This is my reality. Forget about, technical definitions and so on. So this is something I know, right? I look at something, she look at something, and I cannot imagine that she understood it. Oh, come on, I say. Don't you see it means that? And she said, no, it doesn't mean that. It means this. Because something else is created in her mind, specific to her. This is her business. This is my business. Right? So I was looking for a revelation, like a speech that would be so clear that I can rely on all the time with no question. Right? Because these are the answers to my fundamental questions and so on, needs. So it cannot be answer, right? Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. Because the ideas created in me, sometimes it's created so that I will refute them, not to follow them. Sometimes, right? So this is one difference, he says. When we talk about the speech that is created in you, in your heart, in your mind, whatever, it is only for you. You cannot take it and try to apply it to others. You cannot say that this is what I understand from a child. You should understand it this way as well. You cannot say that. It wouldn't apply, even if you try. This is one big difference, he says. So then he talks about the other differences and so on and so forth. So to me, the story is we are looking for the speech, and then we have this speech in us, but he says, be careful. This is not the thing that you are looking for when you are looking for the revelation. So yeah, that's, to me, that's the story. What comes like about the prophets, whether he understood this way, that way, and so on and so forth, I don't know how it is related to this text that we studied, at least for now. Maybe it will come later, but for now, we're just studying my expectations about the speech of God and so on.
So from what I understood, it's personal to you, what you understand. And going back to where we started was this thought process came up when we were trying to understand, or a lot of political chaos was there, heads were flying, you mentioned. And that's why the need came up that we need to decide between what's a revelation and what's an interpretation, right? So what was the solution back then? How did they resolve these issues by making this, by coming like to a conclusion on what the difference is between the two? How does coming to a conclusion on the difference helps us, like in today's life? Let's say there's a problem, and sometimes you can pass a ruling on yourself, but sometimes you're in a position of power, and then you have to make a conclusion for other people. Then you have to pass your own judgment for others' sake. How do you make sure that you're not going off of a wrong interpretation? So how does deciphering between a revelation and an interpretation help us in solving this issue on why we came up with in the first place?
So at this moment, the issue is when I say that when I talk about a meaning, forcing you into it is the problem. I can suggest what I understood to you and say that this is my understanding from this verse for such and such and such reasons. But if I say that this is the only meaning, and therefore your meaning is wrong, and therefore you are, let's say, infidel, and your blood is okay. So this was the issue. So somebody, especially of power, coming up and saying that, legitimizing or trying to build up a theology saying that this meaning is the only meaning, and since you're against this, rightfully, I'm going to kill you, sort of a thing.
Even in our societies, there always has to be a judge, right? Like there are government bodies that need to pass these rulings. So I cannot just say that, in my opinion, I think this is wrong, so we should punish you. But you cannot punish him because, from what you're saying, it's not up to them to make that judgment. So how do you punish people for and maintain a society then?
Well, I guess, yeah, things are getting a little blurry in there because we need to go to history and why it happened the way it happened. But if we are going to talk about it for us right now, let's say for this discussion, and we are going to study a verse and we are trying to understand the verse. And I'm saying that this is the meaning of the verse. And Ahmed comes and says, you are totally wrong. Then I say, no, Ahmed, you are totally wrong. No way, there's no other meaning. Like I am restricting meaning of the endless meaning of Quran into a single meaning. This mindset is wrong. Like this is what bothers us at this moment. Like since we are not at the position of the rule and whatnot, this is why I don't want to get into that part of it. But in my world, what is the significance of this? In my world, the significance is we are talking about a speech which has endless meanings, and to the extent that I purify myself, I am going to get more meaning from the same verse. Even for me, there are multiple meanings possible from the same verse. So if I say that, no, this is the only meaning, first, I am restricting myself and blocking my benefit from Quran. If I start imposing this on others, still I am restricting, like many side effects of this is going to happen. So, but if I say that, no, this understanding at this moment is being given to me by my creator from his endless meanings of this verse, and try to fix myself, try to keep myself clean in my relationship with my creator, I should understand more. So I should be open to this. So that would open up a constant communication channel with my creator. This is the practical outcome of it for our everyday life. I mean, for its other legal aspect of it, I think I don't know that much about it, and there's no point of talking about it in practical setup anyways. But the very practical aspect of it is it closes communication channel between me and my creator. This verse means that meaning, end of story. And as a practical social side effect of this, when Birkan comes up with another meaning, since it is different than mine, I am categorically against it. Like this doesn't mean that any meaning is correct. Maybe Birkan is coming up with something totally wrong. Like maybe he's saying that, you know what, there are two gods. And this is what I understand from the verse which says we created. See, we means more. Like he's at the 7th level. He was talking about these sort of weird things, right? During the prayer, during the dinner, sorry. So, I'm a strange guy, everything. So, but I am now, I should be able to, like, since his all meanings, right or wrong, is open to conversation in this case. And I am open to conversation saying that this is what I understood. But since the speech is unlimited, I can understand more. Let me see what you understood, what you received from this revelation. So this is why I'll be open to conversation with others as well. So this is why there's a very practical outcome of this distinction in my personal life.
I think it's just becoming like a little paradoxical for me.
Okay.
Like I don't even want to use that word, but in the sense that, like, let's say, like, we were in one of the previous discussions, we were doing the tafsir for Surah Quraysh, and we were talking about who is Quraysh, and that's an interpretation of that, right? So, like, you get, like, whatever you understand is an inspiration, like, but where's, like, what's the correct one? Like, there has to be, like, if you just think that, oh, there can be endless meanings, of course there can be endless meanings, but that's a very slippery slope. Like, you could be understanding a verse completely wrong, and since you have this understanding that, oh, this was created for me, you can keep on going down a wrong path.
Yeah.
So how do you rectify that? Like, is what I said earlier, is the converging point then to look at the life of the Prophet, like to see.
And I think this is why in Surah Fatiha we keep saying "Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim," guide us to the right path. But we don't stop there. We also say "Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim." So you have already guided many before us, guide us to their right path. So this is a very important observation in there. So what we are saying is, oh Allah, I have seen people which you created and they lived a very consistent life actually. So their life is a like path for me, but also my conditions are different. You are the one that's going to guide me. Actually, even today's discussion, when we were talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam's supplications, Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying that وَأَرِنَا مَنَاسِكَنَا وَتُبْ عَلَيْنَا. So show us our manasik, how I'm going to communicate with you. Manasik, like manasik is the term used for manasik al-hajj, like the how hajj is made. So he says, I don't know. I'm not going to come up with my own interpretation of let's throw stones here, let's slaughter animals here. He says, well, my creator, you teach me how I'm going to offer my thanks or my appreciation to you. I don't know how to do it. You teach it to me. So being in this position is a very abd-like position, actually. You're saying that, oh Allah, I read this verse. This is what I understood. Guide me to the right path. This is why a scholar would say, like a true scholar would say, Allahu A'lam. What would Allahu A'lam in this case means? This is what I understood, but I'm not saying that I'm 100% true. May Allah guide me to the right path if I'm understanding wrong. So this puts human into a position of true humbleness, saying that if he guides me to the right path, I will get into the right path. Otherwise, if I'm left to my own devices, I'm very likely to divert to the wrong place. So in this case, where do you find security? You are finding security in your creator again. You are not finding security in, I got it, I find the message, I'm so smart. So it's nothing like this.
So the first difference he taught, like first thing with this type of speech that I received, he said it is for you, right? It is for you, and it's come from the name of the creator of the living beings, for instance, or the one who created me. It's come from this degree, right? So it's not coming from the name of the universe, Rabbil Alamin, right? This is what I understand from that. it's specific to you, to your situation, to your life, and so on and so forth. This is one thing. And then he says, what you receive also, you will realize it's not defining something, it's just making it clear to us what we experience, right? It's not saying that, okay, this is the rule. I'm defining inspiration this way. It says, no, let's look at what we have. The first thing we realize that it is specific to me. It doesn't even apply to my wife, for instance, to my closest. The second, he says, when you look at it, you will see that it is shadowy. It is colored with your colors, right? And it's not pure. What I understand from that, it's that depending on my capacity, depending on my desires, my wishes, how I want to bend, and so on and so forth, what I understand is changing. Is it right? Yes. It is true for everyone? Yes. Like, what we understand from the reality is shaped by our quote unquote psychology, let's say, right? If I'm angry, everything I see will be black. If I'm happy, everything I see would be whatever color of the happiness. Green. And this is true for everybody, right? I say. So what I receive is not that pure. Not because of the message itself, but because of the receiver. I then also realize he's talking about some elect person. What does the idea of elect come from? Again, from my experience. I look at it and I realize that, okay, I sometimes bend the message, bend the reality, meaning, and so on and so forth. I look at Yusuf, I say, do you know what? He bends less than myself. This is how I see. Usually what he says is closer to truth, and I know it from, my honest interpretation of what truth is. And then I see, yeah, that's true, but I saw another guy. I was at a Shah, Shiu, whatever, I don't know how to pronounce it, Hoja, and he was even purer than Yusuf, I say. Okay? It's still his understanding, but I say I would rely on him rather than myself or even Yusuf. I see this hierarchy in my life with this speech that is created in me, which brings me the idea that there must be a cleaner and cleaner and cleaner understanding of this. So I would look for it. So to the extent you are honest to yourself, you would never say, this is my understanding. And this is how it is created in me. So that's enough for me. You wouldn't say that. If you know yourself, you would always strive for a purer understanding of it. We even sometimes, what we do, we have a dream. We go to someone we trust more than ourselves. What I understand from this dream. Why? Because we are honest to ourselves that I cannot make sense of it, if there's a meaning. So the same way, when I look at this speech created in me, again, forget about technical definitions and so on. I look for a purer version of it. And I say there must be a purest form of it, which author says the revelation is pure. So there must be a revelation that comes to, so if the speech is descending, right, to me, for instance, I say, if it's the same way, it's descending to this someone purer than me, the purest being, whatever it is, right? It must descend to him in a way that he cannot shape it, right? Unlike a conversation that I have in me, it must be kind of a decree coming from the king, right? someone bringing a decree and reading it. It's not something that belongs to you. This is what I understand from that it's being, revealed through an angel, whatever. There is a decree that it's not his words. It's not his ideas. So he cannot, for instance, I say that this idea created in my mind. This is my idea, I say sometimes. With the prophet or whatever this purest person, I would say he wouldn't say that this is my idea. He would say, this is the decree I received for the entire humanity. So these expectations are based on our experience, what we see in this life.
Okay, any other comments? If not, we can move on. Okay. It's a little bit of kids terror here. Okay. So in the next part, so I continue reading. Then he looked at the nature, the wisdom, and the testimony of inspiration, and saw that its nature, wisdom, and result were composed of 4 lights. The first, it is the result of God's lovingness and mercifulness that he makes himself loved through word, presence, and discourse, in the same way that he makes himself loved to his creatures through his deeds. The second, it's a requirement of his compassionateness that just as he answers, let's wait Ali to calm down. Okay. The second, it is a requirement of his compassionateness that just as he answers his servants' prayers in deed, he should also answer them in word from behind veils. Okay, let's discuss this first before going any further, because otherwise Ali is going to hijack it anyways. So the first is the result of God's lovingness and mercifulness that he makes himself loved through word, presence, and discourse, in the same way that he makes himself loved to his creatures through his deeds. What do you understand from that?
I'm confused about his deeds. Like, what do they mean by the deeds of Allah?
Action. Like by giving you a cute son, he makes himself loved by you. So you're saying that, oh Allah, thank you for giving me this cute child. But also he talks to you with his speech, makes himself loved by you, or shows that he loves you. So if I start recognizing that all the inspirations that I receive, or as he was saying at the beginning, he didn't say all inspirations, he talked about veracious inspiration. So let's also highlight this distinction. But as I realize that veracious inspirations that I receive are my creator talking to me, what would that indicate? Like, even sometimes we are like being super happy if someone that I value so much, like, I don't know, if you have a sheikh, if you have a teacher, if you're a university's president, just saying, talking to you in the first name level. How do you feel about this? Like you are being given extreme value. The guy knows my name and talks to me in the first person level, first name level, right? So my creator is talking to me in the first name level. So this is like when you open your hands, you're realizing your neediness and you're asking for something. and you're receiving a response right at the spot, do you hear this as a speech from your creator? As much as I start recognizing that inspirations are my creator speaking to me, then maybe I will start realizing what it means that my creator is closer to me than my jugular vein.
What's the difference between speech and deeds if they're both means of communication?
Like you are being happy, and as we were talking with one of the brothers, let's say things are happening in your life, and you asked, you opened your hand, you asked, oh Allah, make me successful in the exam, and He gives you success, and you're saying that, oh Allah heard me and responded me. This is His speech back to you in action. But in your, like the feelings, whatever feelings are being created in you is His speech. So ask your question again. Is this making the distinction clear?
Yeah.
Like this is being His speech through, like, I don't know if you guys are not going to consider it crazy. I guess when you're by yourself, there's this human's internal speech. You talk to yourself sometimes.
A lot of times, but not everybody.
Not everybody.
Tell us.
How do you do it? Do you see them? So this internal speech is a speech. I mean, it's a creation. If you would like to take as an action, is an action. But the distinction that's being made in here is what we consider as action is like practical. Well, Allah, give me money. Okay, I earn money. There's an increase and whatnot. So He responds to you through action, through deeds, but also He is responding to you with your feelings. Let's say, oh Allah, give me money. You had this. Then, do I really need money for happiness? Idea comes to your mind. Like He's talking back to you saying that, or like, I mean, I'm just making it up, but those ideas, those feelings, as they pop up, your creator responding back to you saying that, consider this. Do you really need money? What is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for satisfaction? Are you looking for my presence, or you're looking for money's presence? Which one's going to satisfy you? Like these sort of conversations are happening throughout your life. If only you realize that it's your creator responding back to you.
Presence or His presence?
Thank you, Atik. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I was thinking of I think we mentioned this before for the Desi people here, like when your mom says I love you in words versus when your mom makes you biryani, and you feel that as a reassurance. Like I guess I take His word like literally, like the Quran, like in word form, as something that is like you learn about His love conceptually, right? And you can see it like, oh, he definitely loves me. But once you actually feel it, like when He gives you things, it's more like the feelings, like you were saying, more reassuring. And like that's kind of the way I see it. But I guess that part I understand. I would like to discuss more His presence and what's the other word? Like the one that's next. I think discourse. So discourse, like a conversation between two people. Is it like that when you're reading the Quran and when you're having that discourse, like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, how you can have a conversation with Allah through by reading Quran. And yeah, just His presence, like how do we make sense of Him showing love and mercifulness through His presence? Like what kind of presence?
I think if we can make use of our dua time and consider it as such, like you're realizing your neediness and you're talking with your creator at this moment. This is what supplication is supposed to be. You're just declaring your neediness and saying that, well, I told it to my dad and he said, just go, you are by your own. I talked about Birkan, he didn't even understand what I'm talking about. And then my wife, I'm afraid to even mention her because she will realize that I'm a weak person. Like, who am I going to go to? Like at this moment, you're having this conversation with your creator. And sometimes it really happens that I don't really know the answer. Like, people don't like me. Why don't they don't like me, let's say? I think like I'm a perfectly likable person. But what's wrong with people? So having this conversation with my creator, really, as much as I ask the question, as much as I open myself to admitting my fault, some message comes to me. I mean, I'm going to, since most people in here are academics or students and whatnot, you heard about stories like the guy was working on certain problem day and night, sleeping on it, waking up on it. Either at some point during his nighttime, during dream, he sees some answer, or right in the middle of work at a totally unrelated moment. Of course, if I were to do it, like these sort of moments happen in people's lives, and clearly you say that this is an inspiration. If I think about my problems in life, personal problems in life, I would receive the same messages at moments. When I receive the message, I can take it as I found the answer. I thought a lot, now I found the answer. Or I can take it as I was needy and my creator responded back to my question. Once I hear this, I would say, Alhamdulillah, I am heard. And actually, the tiniest questions of mine is being heard. So just as an extreme example of this was, I think it's Surah Talaq, right? Was it Surah Talaq or like Allah heard a woman's, what's it? The first verse, which complained about her husband and sent revelation to the messenger. Because this conversation was so important for everyone as well. Like the woman was complaining about her husband, but the creator sent message to the messenger because the message was not only in this case relevant for this individual case, but saying that this is a general thing. So spoke with revelation, gave the answer through messenger to them. What lesson I can take from this? The creator hears even the tiniest complaint of a human being in their personal household and whatnot, and responds back. It's so important for him, so much so that he even reveals it to the messenger to say that declare this to everyone. In your personal life, are you having an issue with yourself, with, I don't know, a person in your life and whatnot? Have this conversation with your creator. He responds back to you. I mean, those responses are always there. We are not talking about, I don't know, as Birkan was saying, spirituality, mysticism, and whatnot. The problem is we generally take it as I found the answer. But in this journey, the traveler is asking from his maker, and he says, no, this message, this answer that I have, it's given to me by my creator. And the beauty of it is I am being spoken to by the creator of the heavens and the earth in the, if you like, first name level. This is a sign of love. That then I can realize his presence and also having this discourse, this conversation. This is why for a believer, there's no loneliness. Like to the extent that I can realize this, there's no loneliness for me, because even if there's no human being around me, my creator is with me with this conversation as well. A human can choose to go with ego and say that I came up with the answer. I came up with these feelings, you know. Art, I am an artist. And I do this art.
As if you cannot.
As if I cannot do it.
You can program it.
So Yeah, I mean, I remember being proud of a certain recursive loop maker in my undergrad. Like it's a thing that was a problem at some point. We were trying to come up with, I mean, some sort of a code, and I was boasting with it to friends saying that, look, I found the answer. So in there, do you take it as a inspiration or do you attribute it to yourself? Okay, the second, it is a requirement of his compassionateness that just as he answers his servants' prayers in deed, he should also answer them in word from behind veils. As we'll be studying the topic of dua, that would also come up there. This is the immediate result of dua. Like when we make dua, whatever you are asking for, so like make me successful, make me graduate from this PhD program and whatnot. You keep asking those. The immediate response of your creator or the immediate benefit of the prayer is you're aware that somebody is hearing you. Like if I am conscious what I am doing with this dua, I would like, would you ever go and sit before this wall and ask anything in your sanity? Like it's a wall. Like, are you crazy? But if you are consciously able to make dua, that means you know that you are being heard. You are being listened to. So this is the immediate outcome of dua. The third, it's a concomitant of dominicality, that it's a requirement outcome of dominicality, that just as he responds in deed or in action to the cries for help, supplications, and pleadings of those of his creatures who are afflicted with grievous misfortunes and hardships, so too he should hasten to their help with words of inspiration, which are like a form of speech. This is a third type of speech. You see somebody out there going through a super hard life, and you said, well, if I was there, like I would have gone crazy. But the person is bearing it perfectly. What's happening here? Like he didn't receive help. Like people are in war zones. They are not even able to watch what's happening. They are living in there and apparently much more content than I am my life in this city here. What is happening here? And you can relate it to yourself as well. In your lives, right now, if you're going through a fine life, but there happened in your life where things were always going downwards. So at such moments, were you just going crazy or what was happening? My creator creates me different, feelings at this moment in which you find solace. So where does this feeling come from? It's another type of speech, like this ability to handle at those moments, ability to handle those hardship. It is again my creator addressing me, giving me this, if you would like to call it strength, but giving me this, consoling me at those moments. This is why author says, which are like a form of speech. The fourth, God makes his existence, presence, and protection perceptible indeed to his most weak and indigent, his most poor and needy conscious creatures that stand in great need of finding their master, protector, guardian, and disposer. It's a necessary and essential consequence of his divine solicitousness and his dominical compassion that he should also communicate his presence and existence by speech from behind the veil of veracious inspiration, a mode of dominical discourse to individuals in a manner peculiar to them and their capacities through the telephone of their hearts. So just as, I mean, this is now an extension of, like, the creator is manifesting himself in the creation with his actions. Creator is manifesting himself in his revelation, but also creator is manifesting himself by having this individual conversation with every single being. So I think for this inspiration part of it, at least in my world, the distinction that I need to make is to start not claiming ownership over those, but rather realizing that I am the recipient end. I am receiving these messages. And as I am a recipient, I sometimes receive it as it comes. I sometimes reflect half of it and reflect remaining half. This is where distortion is happening. So then becomes a room in there for me to work on myself to become a mirror who is not going to reject the message, but receive it as it comes. This goes back to Ahmed's question. How am I going to know that I am doing it right? Work on yourself. Clean your mirror so that when the light comes, it's not going to get distorted. Ranks, the colors get distorted because my mirror is getting dirty. Okay. Any comments, any questions? People are getting tired today. Okay, so we are at 45 minutes. So inshallah, let's conclude here. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.